Hello, parents. Thank you for your patience with us on with the technology. We're using a different version of Zoom. This is a webinar version, and I quite can't see you. I see you as little icons present in the room, but I can't see your faces. So I was adjusting. I was waiting, and hopefully you didn't catch me sleeping. I'm here tonight with Dr. Sullivan, who is joining us. And our goal is to answer as many questions as we can and to give you an overview of what the upper school will look like on September 8th. And we have a presentation prepared that we should hopefully give you some information. And then we have some questions that people have asked, and you also have opportunities to put questions in the chat. We have a question, Amanda, just from a parent asking why they can't enable video audio. Is that because of the webinar? Perfect.
Yes, I just gave an answer, but just for everyone who has already joined, this is a webinar format, which is a little bit different than what we did last week. So the only people that you will see here are speakers, so both Rishi and Dr. Sullivan. If you do have questions, just add them in the chat, and Sally will be looking out for those, and we'll answer them.
So thank you, and I appreciate your parents' patience in working with us as we try a new system. And I'll share my screen and give you a quick. Here we are. This should be it. Excellent. And thank you to Dr. Sullivan too for putting this together. And what we want to do is give you a sense of what the day in a life looks like and what will it be like when we return to campus. What we've worked hard on developing is optionality. And what we really worked hard on making sure that you have is the choice to send your kid to school or the choice to keep your child at home and learn remotely. And our priority is that you make the best decision for your family, and you make that decision without any judgment whatsoever. Dr. Sullivan and I will just bounce off each other off these slides, and then we'll take questions when we're done. So we hope to give you some peace of mind at the end of this meeting. Dr. Sullivan, I think if I can use how to use this. So here we are. Here is our calendar, and here's the start of the trimester. So Sully, the floor is yours.
Great. Welcome, everyone. So as Rishi mentioned, we want to keep many things similar going into next year, but understanding that there are going to be new challenges so that we have to be flexible and we have to think innovatively about how we offer our curriculum. One of the things that we have grown to love in the upper school is our AB rotation. And many of you will be very happy to hear that that is not disappearing this upcoming year. We will still operate on our trimester calendar. We'll still have the AB rotation. And one thing that'll be new this year is you'll see days up there that are PDOH. That stands for Project Days and Office Hours. So on Wednesdays in the fall and spring, and on Fridays in the winter to better align with the middle school, we will have these office hours and project days. So these will be opportunities for students to come to campus, work on projects, independent work, homework, seek the help of their teachers, but it can also be an opportunity for those students who choose to learn from home this trimester. If they do feel safer coming in on days where the campus may be underpopulated, they can work on labs, they can see teachers for help, they can do assessments. And mind you, we know that some of you will be choosing to stay off campus for a variety of safety reasons, so maybe this option won't work for you. It won't be required. But we're excited about this because we know that the calendar year is going to be challenging. COVID presents a myriad of obstacles that no one could have predicted. So this gives students an opportunity for more one-on-one direction from the teachers. It gives them an opportunity to plan their calendar and their schedule from day to day. They may feel more comfortable doing their studies at night. This Wednesday gives them an opportunity to catch up on schoolwork. We know that students are going to be staying home more often this year. So in past instances, if you had a fever or maybe a sniffly nose, you might have sucked it up and come to school, but we know that that's not in the best interest of the community this year. So we know absences will be higher. Wednesdays are going to be an opportunity for students to catch up on missed work from those absences. So we've built this calendar with maximum flexibility in mind, knowing that as long as our students learn the skills that they need to matriculate to the next year and into college, some of the content can be sacrificed. So we're looking at driving skills and creating a really suitable learning environment for the students. So that's why you might see some changes on this calendar. Rishi?
And what I'd add too is as we put the A and B day schedule together, students are used to, prior to COVID, there weren't any restrictions on where students could be in common spaces and going and seeking out faculty. And with limitations on when students can be in the building, the Wednesday is another opportunity to have dedicated time for teachers to be available, for students to come in for clubs, as Dr. Sullivan mentioned too, and meet at that time. Advisory will meet during the week, and advisory will happen on a grade level. We'll have advisory on a letter day, and students will still get that connection. And if a student is learning remotely, there'll be an opportunity to Zoom into the advisory meeting during that week. Morning meetings will be virtual, and student council members will be in charge of recording morning meeting, and we'll disseminate that information the same way. And we're still debating what is the best way to run class meetings and what would be the purpose of those class meetings. Could we have class meetings on Roberts Field with students spaced out 6 feet? And we'd be intentional on how we run those pieces. As Dr. Sullivan said, we really want to keep our course program and offer as many classes as we can. And we have, as a small school, we have that freedom, and we have the ability to do it even while we're being spaced and physically distanced and making our classroom smaller. We're proud of the fact that we can still offer our courses for the students. Sully, jump in if you're adding something, and I'm going to go to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. I will add that many other schools, especially publics, are seeing this as a forced opportunity to shrink their course catalogs. So English 9, 10, 11, 12 from top to bottom. We know that that's not why you're sending your kids to Wellington. They're here because they want to take our diverse curriculum. They know that taking topics within these special interests is a better way to engage with the material. So we worked really hard this year to figure out how could we offer that full catalog without cutting back all of our courses. And so I'm proud of what we were able to put forward.
What you see here is an absolutely, beautiful schematic that Dr. Sullivan put together. And we're pretty proud of this. And I'll have him explain this is the main hallway of the upper school with our classrooms. You can see the middle school commons, the upper school commons. This is the rotunda entrance, and our learning center is right here. So just to orient you to the spaces, and I have Dr. Sullivan explain to you why what our setup over here is.
Yeah, so the reason that we're able to be on campus safely this fall is twofold. One, we already had a great student to teacher ratio. So supervision and having kids in designated spaces is overcome by the fact that we have a lot of faculty on campus. Two, for a school of our size, we actually have quite a bit of space. And so what we did with facilities was we went through and we looked at each classroom and we tried to maximize the number of students that we could get in each room while maintaining 6 feet of social distancing. So some of the factors that went into optimizing the classrooms were maximizing the number of students, making sure all desks face the same direction. This is recommended by the CDC in terms of transmission of water droplets. We wanted the students to have a clear view of the projector and the whiteboard. And every class is also outfitted with a Zoom cart. So students that are choosing to learn from home, or if students have to go to a satellite site, will be able to Zoom directly into the classroom on large, I think there's 65-inch TVs that will be in the back of every classroom. This means that if teachers are in the front of the room, they're now seeing essentially a life-size version of the student in the back as opposed to staring at their small laptop. So we're hoping that this creates a more immersive experience for the student that is Zooming in, because they'll also be seeing the entire classroom in this time, and better engagement with the teacher because it'll be more like the student is in person. So what we learned through this exercise was that if we use a combination of tables and desks, we could maximize the number of students in the room. Most of our classes can hold 12 students. Some of them are a little bit smaller, but also those are some of our language classes that happen to have smaller class sizes. And some are going to be a little bit larger, like our science labs. But this was really an effort to be able to bring students on campus and put them in the same room with their instructor as often as possible. So the model that we're operating on would be students attend in class, and if there is a class that is going to be in 510 that has 16 students, but the maximum occupancy during COVID is only 12, 4 of those students can attend class from a satellite location. And we are setting up the middle school and upper school commons as those satellites. So students will be able to zoom into the classrooms, or they may work on asynchronous work while the teachers are teaching the other sections of the class. And so all of our teachers are working on equitable rotations, so it isn't always the same kids out there. We're going to make sure that there are equal time spent in the classroom and outside. And the teacher has the flexibility to take their curriculum. They know what they teach and the best way to teach it. So we're giving them as much flexibility as we can here. So some teachers may take our 80-minute break and split the class into 2 40-minute sections. Some may have the whole class in on one day to do a laboratory, and then the other half of the class in the next letter day to finish the laboratory. So teachers are going to have flexibility with this model, but we think that this is the best way to safely bring kids into the classroom. Before I go on, I just want to check the chat real quick.
Yeah, we have a chat there about the health, and I'd like to come back to that question, but I do have a question I think you answered about the equitable rotation that Diane asked, and I think that is the teachers will set that up, and we'll try to give students as much warning prior to as to when, how they can expect their week to look like.
And you can expect all of this to go into a teacher syllabus for each class, explaining their rotation philosophy and how they're going to be held accountable to that.
Okay, I'm
Go
checking
to the next slide so I can talk about the.
Yes. I'm so bad at multitasking, Dr. Sullivan.
And this is the other thing that makes our model possible. So on average, the class size in the upper school is somewhere between 12 and 13 students. And if you think back to the previous slide, most of our classes can hold 12 or more students. So based solely on those numbers, we expect that more than half of the classes will be able to operate this fall without needing to use those satellite spaces. Only the 2 right bars on the graph will have to utilize the satellite spaces. Most of our students will be in the classroom. Some will need to take use of those satellite spaces. And we obviously will have students who are having free periods as well. So that's why we've made the decision this year to give juniors and seniors open campus. We've offered this to seniors in the past. This is a privilege where if juniors and seniors do not have a scheduled class period, they're free to leave the building. We have invested in a new application software where students can sign in and out of the building using swipe cards or their smartphone. This will allow us to keep track of where the students are in case of things like tornado and fire drills. But it also gives us flexibility to open up some of these spaces at the satellite locations. And juniors and seniors do not have to leave. If they're more productive on campus, they need supervision, they are more than welcome to stay on campus, to seek help from their teachers, to work in quiet places. Likewise, if they don't have a 1st or 5th period class, we're moving our morning meetings to a remote structure this year. So they don't have to show up to campus until their 6th or 2nd period class. Likewise, at the end of the day, if they don't have a 4th or 8th period class, they are free to leave campus early. So as long as they are being responsible and using the check-in, check-out services, then we will have that privilege granted to juniors and seniors.
So thank you, Dr. Sullivan. We have a couple of questions, and the first question we have is from Gretchen Hammond. And Gretchen, thank you for your question about band. We are, some of the way the decision making we landed on is looking at spaces and safety. So band is something that we are still figuring out. How many kids can we fit in the band room? Can they be outside? We know that for band students, wind instruments are high risk, whereas percussion and strings are not. So we're still in the process of figuring out an optimal solution for band. So both the outdoor spaces, potentially indoor spaces, smaller groups, where could that fit into a student study hall? So all of this is being explored, and we will have that ready to go before September 8th. Molly, your question about outdoor space, Jeff did mention last time, I think he jokingly called it tents and Wi-Fi meeting is what it was, and certainly did happen. So we are looking to see where we can put tents up. And you know, can the tents be used specifically for students? And then the question from Anthony Brown about the overflow spaces. We are trying to create clusters within overflow spaces where students can work. So we want students to have headphones on, and the same way that you'd be working remotely, you'll be listening to a teacher participating. And we will monitor the situation, and this is all new. We've never done this before. We have a theory, and we'd like to test our theory and then make adjustments. And in a perfect world, of those spaces, we'd like to have a space that's relatively quiet for studying, and then 2 spaces that are better suited for collaborative work, which would be the middle school commons and the upper school commons, and keeping the learning center a quieter space. And we won't know until we see how the weeks play out as to how we can manipulate that, but we would send students. So in that, if there's a group of students coming out of 509, then that group of students would be encouraged to sit 6 feet apart, but in a cluster, and observe and participate in the classroom that day. If the work is asynchronous, then the students are in their headphones on and working on the asynchronous activity, and then just waiting to transition. If it's a lab, as Dr. Sullivan said, then they're working on the lab report, and that just requires something on your head to cancel out the sound. And then WSBK3, that's a great, I want to say WKRP in Cincinnati, but it's not. Thank you for the, we are considering virtual options also for band. And then Susan, your question about temperatures, let me come back to that, because we do have a section thinking about safety, wellness, and how we plan to address that. So I'm going to move with the schedule, but I have not forgotten. So Dr. Sullivan, you mean to go to the next slide?
Real quick, I want to just grab a couple more of these questions.
Yeah, please.
One of them involves if more students choose a remote or flexible learning from home option, will that allow more students in on the wait list? Not at this time. We're still going to stick to our approximately 250 number for the upper school. That's because we don't want to oversaturate ourselves to 260, 270 and compromise the learning of those that are learning from home or on campus. It's going to be all hands on deck for our faculty with the number of students that we have. And I think we're all crossing our fingers that this is only a temporary thing, and we don't want to create a situation where in the spring, if things are better and everyone can be back on campus, we're at a place where we're stretched out on our resources. So we will be maintaining the upper school size.
Anna's question about the tech we can answer too. Zoom is all you need. So if a student has a laptop and has been connecting into school over the spring using learning from home, that is all a child will need to connect with us. No new technology needs to be purchased along the way. So good, excellent. Okay, so then let's keep going. So ultimately, we come down to the choice that you will be making. And the choice that you'll be making is learn from home or come to campus. And this picture that Dr. Sullivan chose makes me laugh, and I sort of pause as I see it. And as I think about this choice, I want you as a parent, and we'll be offering Zoom sessions with students also, to make the best possible decision for the students' learning. I strongly believe that taking care of the student's emotional safety and emotional well-being is our first priority. And when a student feels settled emotionally, then they will learn. The learning will eventually happen. So that social emotional piece is important. So as we think about that, I keep having conversations with families and conversations with students about what is the best choice. If a student is someone who needs that to see their friends and to have a connection, 6 feet apart, socially distanced, and wearing masks, then being on campus might be the best option. The same individual has to be flexible, has to have a baseline of emotional resiliency, and be okay making adjustments and changes. Right? Each day it'll feel a little difficult. It may feel awkward. I expect the first month to have its bumps, but as we learn how to sit in spaces, navigate, mask lapses, putting it back on, kids will start to build some comfort in how it is. And so if a student says, you know what, I want to be at school, I want to be able to see my friends, I want the experience of being in a classroom, and I can wear a mask, I can wash my hands, I can follow all of the safety protocols of school, then school's a good option. I've also heard students who are concerned about being at school, concerned about the people that they might be around wearing a mask. And if that takes away from a student's ability to learn, then learning from home is the best option. I want the option a student can have that will help that student's ability to learn, and that is a priority. And that's the reason why two parents can choose on a month-by-month basis, as opposed to being locked into a trimester or beyond. So that optionality for parents and that choice is important to me, without any judgment. That's what we definitely want for you and for your family and for your student.
Yeah, as we move to the next slide, I'll answer one more question. It says, how will labs work for students remote learning? One of the things I like to point out is that in the spring, when all of this was new to everyone and we were all scared about what to do, we found a way to send 25 squid home to all of our students in the marine biology class to conduct a lab at home. And now that we've had more time to think about it, I know the science department in particular has been thinking how to address laboratories. There will be options for students to do laboratories in the classroom. Some of the labs required things that were perfectly safe to do at home. So we're working on care packages where we would sanitize everything and send it home with the students so that they can conduct the experiments at home. Some things can be done through demonstration in the classroom where everyone works with the same data set and does their own analysis and draws their own conclusion. So there's a lot of options to consider with the laboratories.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. A couple of questions I think we can also talk about. Caroline, I understand your question. I will message you shortly after about students are being waitlisted. Things may change and shift as we go into add drop. And for PE requirements, students who are learning from home for PE teachers will provide options for students to participate in the same way that there were PE options in the last month and a half of school at the end of last year. So students will be able to participate. Bringing a very large screen out into the cross-country trail or even the turf seems problematic. One wobble and there goes the screen. So PE teachers are thinking about how they will engage students and also give them options to participate. So students who are remote from home can participate in PE, and it might be asynchronous. They might not be outside in the class with the students, and they may have an opportunity to go outside and take care of what they take care of the expectations for the course. And then Uma Chowdhury, you had a question about when do you switch? The first month begins on September 8th and ends on October 8th. And we will post more information on Veracross. So if you haven't already, you can go online, log into Veracross, and there's an option there for you to pick the option of returning to campus or learning from home. And that needs to be completed by August 21st. Clubs.
And for those of you, real quick, and for those of you that are interested in doing college visits, we have always had a very flexible schedule for students to do college visits. There was a form that they would take around to the teachers, and it was something that we would try and facilitate and support as much as possible. That won't change now, and I think now that we do have these remote options, it's even better. So students can go on those college visits, but still Zoom in, even if they chose the on-campus model, absolutely.
And I had a conversation with a parent whose child has an extracurricular activity and will be traveling, but will have the opportunity to Zoom into these classes. So absolutely, while traveling on a college trip, if you're in the car driving, then yes, by all means, jump into class. And that is something that couldn't have happened before. Dr. Sullivan, you want to talk about the HighFlex schedule, and I'll keep an eye on the questions.
Sure. So HighFlex is a model that came out of tech societies in California. So colleges, especially those that were in rural areas, were trying to figure out how to get better attendance. And they decided that having an on-campus model and a virtual model that could flex in between would be a way to reach a larger market. And we think that's exactly what we've been queued up to do now in the COVID era. So when you see HighFlex at the top, that is just referring to this model where students can choose to be virtual or on campus or transition in between. And what you see with our schedule is it's very similar to years past. The only difference that you'll note is if you pay really close attention to the times, we've gotten rid of the 15-minute break in between second and third period and sixth and seventh period, because we feel like there's no reason to have 15 minutes of unscheduled time where students can mingle and potentially be unsafe and need more supervision. So we've shortened the 15-minute break to 10 minutes. And we've increased the passing time between first and second, fifth and sixth from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, because as we do develop our hallway strategies, we do believe that having 5 extra minutes of passing time will allow us to keep the hallways more empty and safer. But other than that, you will see the same schedule that we've had in the years past, other than the optional Wednesday that I described before. And this would be the schedule that students who are on campus would be engaged in, primarily if we are in the orange or red levels. This is my favorite slide. When we were trying to think of how to manage the hallway, I thought it was a good metaphor to compare this to 270. So every day on 270, thousands of vehicles merge on and off the freeway without incident. And so we're going to model our hallway after 270. It's a one-way loop. So down on one side of the hall, back on the other side of the hall. All turns coming out of classrooms would be right-hand turns. And this is essentially your merge. So as you're coming out, you wait for your 6-foot window where you can safely merge into the hallway. If you are a student coming and you see students exiting a classroom, then you give right away. Likewise, when you're in the middle of 270, you wouldn't slam on the brakes. So we're saying students, don't socialize in the hallway, move with purpose, and we're going to limit locker trips to before and after school to try and limit those potential interactions in the hallway. And like I said, we're playing with models where we do a staggered release between classes, most likely by alphabet, so that we only have half the population in the hallways at any one given time. And we're working with our makerspace to actually print these reminders and roadway signs to adhere to the floors. So the students do have that constant reminder, and so everyone can remain vigilant.
Sorry, Dr. Sullivan, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
And this is something that teenagers working with them at the building oftentimes lack a situational awareness. And any other time you come out of the hallway and they're just kids who will stop to congregate either by locker. So there's no locker access between 8:50 and 3:30. There's no lock. Kids just can't go to their lockers, and we don't want to, and we'll see how that turns out. But before and after school, yes, but not during the day. And that situational awareness, oftentimes the students just stop as they're talking and not paying attention. So this will require students to actually make eye contact. Do I see the person coming out of the classroom? Did I look left? Did I look right? And this traffic flow will so adding that extra time, this will take a while. And this is a learning curve. We'll try it. We'll make some adjustments. I'm confident that we'll get into a rhythm that everybody will get used to. So the 270 is, I love this example. So thank you for that. And yes, questions in terms of that was asked is, yes. So if you can't just cut across, you take the full loop. You have to make the full loop and get to your class. And that's just a cleaner way. And we initially thought about putting down cones and rope, but that's a fire hazard. And should we have to evacuate the building in an orderly fashion, that would get in the way of the kids. And so this will be important to help them navigate the space.
Yeah, and someone else asked about how do we enforce the pattern. So we will have faculty presence in the hallway. We are also looking to hire learning guides to help with supervision of the common spaces and the hallways throughout the year. So there will be a support strategy to help students get where they're going. But also, this is going to take a fair amount of responsibility from all of the students, and it's something that we do address in a later slide.
Was there one more question there, Dr. Sullivan, about?
Someone asked if they would have to complete the entire loop. I would say during those changeover periods when there could be 50 students in the hallway, yes, we would ask them to walk the extra distance. If someone has a special need, I'm sure we can make arrangements to safely move them across the hallway without traversing the whole loop. If it's in between a class and no one is in the hallway, some of this is common sense and just being responsible. So, I would like to say that these are protocols and procedures. They're not steadfast rules and requirements that we're going to enforce with an iron fist. Rishi, do you want to answer the question about parents visiting before September 8th?
Yes, so we can set up sometimes if we have a strong interest in parents visiting, we could set up a time before September 8th for parents to come by and take a look at the building. So we'll send out an email and provide that opportunity. We will have the opportunity for parents who are new to Wellington, but current parents, if there's an interest, we can, and if we don't have a time, we'll set up appointments for you to come in and see the space too. That'll also be easier to handle than trying to have everyone or a large grade level in at a time. So we can, so stay tuned. We'll get some information out to parents for that. And oh, great, yes. In terms of backpacks, yes, absolutely, because they can't go to lockers, so backpacks have to come into classes, and we have to adjust, and maybe kids put it under their desk, but teachers will have strategies to help students. And the same way with restroom panels, we are thinking about dots that might be around. So as kids are waiting in the hallway in the upper school commons, we can see this as the 270 and 6 foot space. There may be some dots there. There may be dots on either side of the bathroom. So it'll again take some situational awareness on how kids want to get into the restroom and how they're exiting from a restroom. So it might be saying, I'm going to the restroom and I'm exiting as they walk out or walk in. So it'll definitely be a learning curve. And the piece about common sense, we definitely want those kids to have situational awareness and to think about, where am I headed? Who's ahead of me? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? And that's something that our kids will rise to the occasion and do well. So let's keep going. And so we did not want in any way, shape, or form sacrifice our advisory program. Our advisory program, I do believe, is the cornerstone of our social emotional learning. It is the strongest connection that kids have with their advisor and the adults in the building. And it's also the connection back home. And we've created a schedule that will allow every grade level to have at least one advising day. And as you can see on here, Mondays will be 10th grade, Tuesdays 9th grade, not on the Wednesdays will be clubs, and then 11th and 12th grade. So there'll be opportunities for them to see each other, for advisors to check in and to get an emotional read, a barometer of how the student is doing, and check in with us. Teachers will be doing the same. So at least at the beginning, we want as much information as we can from students on the experience so we can do better with the experience. So the advisory program is definitely not going away. Parents' night will look a little different, obviously, and we want to, we'll think of ways of connecting you. We have some ideas, and I don't want to share them yet because I think that'll be a nice surprise, and connecting you with the classroom. Our teachers will always be available. The one, I guess, good thing about Zoom is that anytime that you would like to meet with our teachers, they're available. And whether it be before 8:30 or after 3:30, parents can Zoom in, and it could be during the day. So we still have opportunities to be connected through technology. And we certainly encourage you to check in with the child's teachers, with advisors as you see. Just looking to see, okay, then let me keep. All right, Dr. Sullivan, you want to jump in and talk about the purple schedule?
Yeah, so we hope not to use this schedule at all this year. So students who choose the learning from home option during the fall will be using our normal calendar, but our faculty are being trained to consider a class of 2 40-minute sections, 40 minutes or less of direct instruction, more problem solving time, more discussion time, so that we don't feel like our students are on Zoom 80 minutes a day, 3 or 4 times for each period. Okay. But in the event that we have to go to distance learning for everyone because we increase to level purple, what we would do is we would consolidate all of the classes to 40-minute Zoom sections in the morning. So these would start, the times may actually change a little bit. It could be 8:30, it could be 9 o'clock, but essentially we would have a 40-minute class period at the top or bottom of every hour, and then a full 20-minute break in between those classes. We want students to be able to go get food downstairs, walk around the house, go to the bathroom, get away from the screen, let their eyes focus on something that's more than 20 feet away. All of these things that we know are good for physical, social, and emotional wellness. We're also going to try and wrap up the day by 12:10 in terms of the direct instruction piece, because we know that some of these students might be watching younger siblings. They might have other opportunities. And what we'd like to do is create the afternoons and evenings and Wednesdays as flexible time for them to work on asynchronous work. So teachers will assign work that complements the stuff that they're doing in class that students can flexibly do in the afternoons, evenings, weekends, and on those Wednesdays as well. This is an evolution of our learning from home in the spring. In the spring, everyone was scrambling, trying to figure out what the best strategies were. And I think we made a lot of great choices in the spring. And I think we learned a lot in the spring from your guys' valuable feedback. So we collected many surveys. I know Rishi, I, and the other teachers were on the phone constantly with parents. And we just assembled a very large database of information from you guys and from your kids. And using that information, we have evolved our learning from home strategies in the event that we need to go there. Like I said, we hope not to use this schedule, but it's possible that, you know, depending on how the cases rise in our county, we might be forced into this predicament.
Thank you. Dr. Sullivan, that was well said. So I'll go here and talk about the responsibility. I've been thinking about what I want to say to the students and how I would start the year with some inspiration. And yesterday I had an epiphany, and my epiphany was what we've really come down to in a bare essence is we need to take care of each other, and we need to take care of the person, our neighbor, I guess is one way to say it. And so if a student is at school, then this taking care of all of our safety is a high priority for me. It's important that you're looking out for the person who you might be passing in the hallway, the person you're sitting in the next to in the classroom, 6 feet apart, the teacher, your advisor. And that to me is really important. How are we taking care of each other? And the obligation is to follow these rules and these protocols. And that is the privilege of being on campus, is that you can do all of these 4 things and you can do it very well. And also being comfortable with a little bit of uncertainty as we start. I don't anticipate that we can come out the gate. And for those of you who have been teachers, those of you who have teachers in your lives, teachers are the most organized and planned people that I know. They start out the school year, and if you ask them, what are you doing on day 31? They will tell you what they're doing on day 31. And what we have here is something that is, and I'll use my least favorite word, unprecedented. We're coming in to start the school year. So everybody's nervous. I'm nervous, the teachers are nervous, the kids are nervous, and it'll take us a month. It'll take us maybe longer than that, but I hope it's just a month to settle everyone and to build up a sense of what the new normal is a new normal. And air high five from far away is the new normal, sort of a hug, but at least you get to see each other and talk to each other. So as we adjust to this and build this up, I want us to be patient in how we do it and where we get there. And once the students feel emotionally secure, the learning will click time and time again. That always happens. And so I just want to be clear that as we make this choice, we need to be flexible, we need to be patient. We'll be communicating with each other and doing ultimately what's best in the learning interest of our students. Dr. Sullivan, did you add anything?
Sure. So the 4 images that I have going across the bottom came from Andy Thomas. He's the Franklin County medical advisor. He's also the chief medical officer for Ohio State. He's overseeing all of their policies through this. He's also on our board and has been an asset for us to work with over this time. He couldn't emphasize enough that the 4 things we can do as a community are wear face masks, constant hand washing and using sanitizers, maintaining that 6-foot social distancing, and being very vigilant about wiping down common and shared surfaces. So those are all things that are in our mission for this year. We have protocols set for all of these, and it's something that we're going to work with the students. And one of the things that Rishi had mentioned before is that this is going to take a little bit of training. And so that's why we felt it was really important to hold our start date to September 8th so that we could bring students in smaller groups. We could walk them through the protocols. We could teach them the best way to use the hallways, why it's important to wash your hands as often as we can, show them those stations, train them with the 6 feet. You know, Erin Cornett is helping with the soccer team this year, and she says she is amazed at how ingrained that 6-foot halo has become. So, you know, for a while we were spreading out pool noodles and doing other things at the practices so that they would kind of envision with that 6 feet. But now when you see the girls lined up at the water fountain, they're 6 feet apart. But we can do things to enforce that and improve it. We can put dots down. I've gotten a couple questions about bathroom procedures. We're going to have a maximum occupancy for the bathrooms. Like Rishi said, we can put dots in the hallway so that students know where their spot in the line is, when they can enter. We're working with the teachers this year to encourage them to be more flexible with their bathroom policies within the class, because we know that during those hallway changeovers, there's just going to be too long of a line if we're only letting one student in a bathroom at a time. So spreading that out across the day. Let me just read the chat real quick.
Sure, and Dr. Sullivan, I want to add one more piece about the mental well-being. And many years we've heard students. You ask high school students, why are you here? You look sick. You sound sick, and they're coughing and they look miserable. And the answer's always been, well, I have too much work to do, and I have these deadlines, and I have all these things to get done. And if I miss one more day, I'll be behind a month. And we are definitely exploring ways that we can be gentler and we can be more reasonable with missed work, especially when students are sick, and making sure that if a student is sick, you can stay home, you won't miss work. And if you do, there'll be a plan for you to catch up on that work that won't seem daunting. So that is something that all of our teachers are committed to working on, and that will make our kids feel better if they have the sniffles and need to stay home, if they're genuinely sick and have a cold and need to stay home. And so addressing those policies are important. Our dress code will remain the same. I'm a big fan of our dress code, and I believe it's a common sense dress code. And there are a few adjustments that we will put on Veracross in terms of a hoodie color, and that's solid. And we are aligning with the middle school's expectations on there. So that will be out there too. So the dress code will remain the same. And really our priority will be on helping kids adjust to the spaces and mask enforcement and distance enforcement. That'll be the priority. So if a student happens to come in with the wrong color one day, it's not the end of the world. The safety and wellness will be our priority.
Yeah, someone asked about the reorientation days. Are those only for students that are going to be on campus, or is it for students that are choosing the at-home model? We would encourage everyone to come in. We understand that some of you might be making that choice for safety reasons and absolutely do not want your kids on campus right now, and we respect that. For those of you that want to learn more about the protocols, the procedures, the way the spaces are laid out, and you feel that it's safe to be on campus, by all means, even if you know you're already choosing the in-home model, please attend those reorientation days. One, I think it'll give you a little bit more information. It's an opportunity to see some friends that you might not have seen for a few months. And eventually we're going to be back on campus. So knowing some of those protocols, it could be we're back on campus with those protocols still in place. So I would encourage anyone who feels comfortable coming to do so. There's 2 or 3 people asking the same question right now. Is there a dress code for virtual learners?
I would say we would keep the same dress code that we did for learning from home. So we asked that the students wear a top that is a Wellington uniform top, or what is within the Wellington dress code, excuse me. So that would be completely acceptable. And Dr. Sullivan and I have joked that when things go back to normal, then every homecoming we will be tormented with COVID dress days, where students will wear a fancy top and pajama bottoms or gym shorts or whatever it might be. So for our students, we just expect that the top part be in dress code as they present to the classroom. So I think that answers.
I was just going to say, we want our students to be comfortable, but also there is something about putting on the game day uniforms and getting into that, hyped frame of mind where you're in the right place at the right time. So we think, putting on an appropriate shirt, getting ready for class. Like I said, they're going to be zooming in with their peers and they're going to feel like they're in the classroom. So I think we want to extend that beyond the screen to the dress code as well.
Yeah, Dr. Sullivan, I would say for me, game day is doing my hair. And so I'm sure you can relate to with doing hair. He didn't laugh. I think I'm in trouble. He'll yell at me later.
Sorry, I was reading the chat.
No, I get it. I was trying to get a rise out of you.
Actually, Patty just asked a very good question. You
Yep.
mind reading it real quick and responding?
Absolutely. It's a question from Patty is, what happens if your student doesn't think she feels comfortable going to school and then goes to reorientation and changes her mind, but we've told the school we're doing homeschool? Is it possible to change your choice, or should we choose the in-school option and stay home? This is a great question. I want to give students the option, so that is important to me. And so if a student comes to school, sees it, changes his or her mind, I'm okay with that, as long as we can do that before the start of the school year. And at the same time, I also want to be reasonable, and going back to the common sense. If we have a student who's there for 2 weeks and then becomes nervous and doesn't want to stay there, let's have a conversation. Let's connect with the advisor. Let's connect with Dr. Sullivan. Let's connect with me and find out what's going on and be helpful. I certainly would not want to cause any duress on a child and to really stress a kid out. So if there's something going on, we'll have that conversation. I'm committed to the best learning outcome for a student, and we can make that decision. We can cross that bridge when we come to it. Question about Crocs, that really is not my decision. I defer to Dean Frim on that, and Dr. Sullivan does like Crocs. Mr. Frim does not, so we'll see. We'll see on that.
So I do want to point out that there is another division Zoom meeting that uses the same account that starts at 8 o'clock. So we have approximately 10 minutes. I think we have answered over 50 questions in the chat as we've gotten to them, but hopefully we have some time for some more. And I'm also periodically copying and pasting the chat. So if we do miss anything tonight, these are all tagged with your guys' names, so we can either forward those to the experts to answer those questions and get back to you.
So a couple of questions that were asked. I think from the very beginning, we were asked a question specifically about the ventilation systems and what we're doing. So on a daily basis, we're looking at, and Jeff has worked hard with Keith DeVoe on this, to look at the ventilation systems, what kind of filters are going in there, what are our cleaning procedures. So all of those. And in terms of hand hygiene and ventilation, we are going to keep telling students to wash your hands, to disinfect, so it'll be in their line of sight to always see it. So either reminders from the teacher, hand wash as you go out. I was in the building today with a lot of other teachers, and I even found myself thinking, okay, did I wash my hand? Did I not wash my hand? Did I do this? So I had to think and adjust as I have been navigating those spaces. So we will be patient and keep reminding, giving them lots of reminders. And then the research that comes up on cold and flu, we'll keep looking at. Our medical subcommittee is great. We have a host of doctors and professionals that we are talking to and learning from. The was there another question on there about health and wellness, or about the ventilation? No. The question that I have here about backpacks, yes, students will have to take their backpacks from their classrooms. And the reason being is that lockers won't be available during the day. So a student could be strategic to bring just the books that a student would need for that letter day. So just the books for the A-day classes or the books for the B-day classes, but not both. And that flexibility, or they leave it in their locker and get it on their way out. And so I would definitely add that. So Dr. Sullivan told me to unshare the screen. So I'm going to unshare the screen right now and do that. All right, Dr. Sullivan, question? Sullivan, my audio went out. Sorry. You may want to, I unshared the screen and then lost your.
If I unplug, does that work?
Yes, okay. Sound great.
So there's been a couple questions about the type of cleaning resources students will have available. For example, the bathroom is a shared space. So I believe we are working to put Purell stations, as you would enter the bathroom. So you can clean your hands before you might touch any of those surfaces. Obviously, you'd wash your hands on your way out of the bathroom again, but that way the next student who comes in will be careful as well, but also knows that it should be cleaned from the student beforehand. Our facilities is already committed to making extra laps throughout the building, throughout the day, so that we can keep a handle on these spaces, constant wipe downs, those type of things.
We've had a question about testing and monitoring of temperatures, and this is a great question. We're still collecting research on how how we can do this efficiently. And if we are doing this, then what impact will it have on when students come into the building? At what points in time do we do this? Are we checking temperatures at the beginning of the day? I think there was a question about, are we checking the temperatures of students who are coming in and out? So what would be the best way to accommodate all of this? And so I don't have an answer for you tonight that would satisfy that, but we're still looking, and I don't want to commit to something that we're still researching. So that is definitely on the table to see, what is the best practices and how would we collect that information effectively.
Yeah, I'm looking at another question about orientation days and setting up lockers. I will reach out to the deans to see if that is going to be part of their program schedule. We met with the deans this morning, but I don't remember anyone bringing that up, so I'll make sure that's addressed. Someone asked about Ohio State not doing sports. Will Wellington? We are still waiting to make that decision. Part of the thought process here to keep in mind is OSU sports is a small city. They're traveling across state lines all over the country. Any given game probably takes 1,000+ to orchestrate. So I think those were some of the reasons that the Big Ten chose to abandon their sports seasons or postpone them in the fall. I believe the governor is set to make an announcement tomorrow about high school sports, because I know that there are some districts that start live soccer games on Wednesday. So we will see what the governor has to say tomorrow. It is something that is constantly evolving, and we are taking the advice of the experts there.
There was a question about cleaning too. The cleaning protocol at the end of every class, there'll be a spray bottle in every room, and the teacher will spray the desks and the surfaces. The kids wipe the surfaces and go out the room. So then when the next class comes in, the surfaces are clean and ready to go. And those are the same protocols that we'll use in the satellite spaces when we're transitioning between periods, is the spray and wipe down. So we'll develop that protocol for students. We have questions about PSAT. Yes, exploring PSAT and seeing how those classes how the test can be taken. Will it be taken on campus? And if it is, then we'll prioritize on PSAT day that the students who are taking the PSAT, so the sophomores and the juniors, would be on campus taking the PSAT, and the 9th and 10th graders wouldn't be on campus that day. We wouldn't be able to separate students to take the test and have the entire student body in the building. So that PSAT day, we have to be flexible with, and we will communicate with you when we have more details on that.
Yeah, there's a question about group projects and how will they work. I'm always amazed at group projects at Wellington, because the first person that sets up the Google Share doc usually is the winner. Every project that I've ever had students do in terms of groups in the classroom, everyone submits their file from Google. I'm amazed at how fast they can orchestrate things online, whether it's through texting, email, things like Zoom now is more on students' radars. So I think all of those things will be possible. And there's nothing stopping from a teacher telling 4 students in a classroom to work together on a project. They can still divvy up the work and still converse and discuss and work on that project together. So I don't think that's something that's going away at Wellington.
I like the question about lunch, and let me just jump to that and then also talk about tests. So Dr. Sullivan, there's a question about tests and assessments from Diane, and let me jump to lunch. So lunch, we will divide lunch into 2 blocks. Two grade levels will eat during one lunch period, and then the other 2 grade levels will eat during the other lunch period. The tables in the dining room will be 6 feet apart. Students may eat outside, and then the satellite spaces will also be spaces where students can eat. Not the learning center, but the middle and upper school commons will be spaces students can eat. There will be one option. I've seen the menu. It looks delicious. I'm hoping that it'll be shared with you soon, and you can see what it is, but the kids aren't getting, I think whatever they're terrified of getting is not what they're getting. We actually will be able to support our menu, but it'll be one choice. We're mindful of food waste. We're mindful of how kids pick up the food. And Desiree Lajoie, who is our dining coordinator, it's outstanding at what she's doing. And if students are off campus, then for the juniors and seniors, if they want to go home for lunch or leave campus for lunch, they can. We'll ask students that if they go in their own car, they don't jump into the same car, and then they don't sit together when they go out to eat, and asking them to follow all of those pieces. And there was a question about the value of how do we enforce, and really it's explained to students the commitment that they are making by being on campus, and the commitment to everyone's safety and to everyone's well-being. And to be on campus, we have to follow those expectations and take care of our neighbor. Okay, we have to wrap up quickly. Dr. Sullivan.
Let me answer the last two questions. One of them is, students who are choosing to stay at home are never going to be required to come in on Wednesdays. That'll just be an opportunity for those who want to come in and do a hands-on lab experience, meet with their teachers, or if they want to come in to take assessments, they will have that opportunity, but they will not be required to at any point by any teacher. Regarding tests, we are working with our faculty this year to figure out how we can make tests equitable for the students that are on campus versus those distance learning. The science department, for example, decided that many of our tests can be resource open. When they go and tackle these problems in real life, Wikipedia and the internet is always going to be there. I don't have to have students remember scientific formulas and constants. They can use their notes. They can look this thing up. What we really want them to be able to do is identify a problem, be able to develop a strategy to solve it, and then execute it. You can do that with or without resources. And students who understand the material better are going to excel in this. And students who need the resources, it might help, but it's not going to be the end all be all. It's not like an anatomy test where you have to name every bone in the human body. So as we go through this, we're going to ask our faculty to be creative and innovative with their assessments, figure out ways that we can give the same assignments to students at home and on campus, and how we can grade those things fairly. I think there's a lot of opportunities to forge new pathways during COVID, and most of them I think are going to result in students that are better critical thinkers, better problem solvers, better students. This is an opportunity. It's not just a curse.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. And I'll close with just helping you make the best choice for your family and making that choice without any judgment. The hard work that we've put into all of this was to give you that optionality and provide you that peace of mind. So I will stop here. Otherwise, I will keep talking. And I want to thank you again for being here this day and for providing your questions. We've copied it. We'll go through it one more time. We're putting in we're creating an FAQ, and this will be part of that FAQ. We also want to make sure that you complete the return to school survey by the 21st, and you can go on Veracross to click on that link. And my email that I sent to you last week also has that link. So thank you again. I'm going to stop talking so Jill Webb likes me and Shelley Brown like me when the pre-primary starts. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and you can still reach out to us. Thank you.